Today we'll be discussing the Physics AS level practical paper. This is basically focused on the Cambridge board format. So this is the paper 3 in the Cambridge board. So the paper format, let's first discuss the paper format. And there are two questions in the paper. Question number 1 and question number 2. Okay, so question number 1, it requires the candidates to collect data, plot a graph, draw simple conclusions, and it also includes drawing tables to store the data collected and simple graph evaluations. Simple graph evaluations in the sense the gradient of the graph, the y-intercept, these sort of things, and determining the trend. And these all things are included in the simple evaluations of the graph. And so basically in this question number 1, you have to collect the data. Okay, they'll give you a pattern, a method of doing it. They'll give you it step by step, and you have to just follow those instructions that are given, the method that is given to you, and just correctly follow that. Even if you think that your results are not appropriate, or you can get even more accurate results, right? So don't waste your time on reading very making your readings very accurate, because you basically get 2 marks for your quality on the whole paper. But if you basically carry out the experiment again and again, and and then also you think that you need more accuracy in your results, you will just get 2 marks for that. So rather I'll basically suggest you to focus on the other parts of the paper, right, which will make you score more marks. Okay, you can't miss like all the marks for just 2 mark question, right? And mostly for all the readings you'll get 1 mark, right? And after that you will be asked to get some other values, like other calculated quantities. Like if you're given the current, right? If you're given the current, and you will be asked that you'll be given another formula, which is 1 upon I, okay, which is 1 upon the current, and you have to calculate that, and then you'll be given 1 marks for that calculations answer, right? So you have to write that. These kind of calculated quantities will be also asked. And then you have to draw graphs. So you should be good at drawing graphs. At least you should know, like, the most common mistake people make in drawing graphs is they don't know like what will be coming on the y-axis and what will be coming on the x-axis, right? So for your information, I'll just briefly talk about that. And that's on the y-axis you'll get your dependent variable, and on the x-axis you'll get your independent variable. So I'll talk about that more in my next video, which will be specifically focused on question number 1, and there'll be another video for the question number 2, because there's quite a lot of content in both of them. Now let's talk about the question number 2. The question number 2 requires no graphs. Okay, so you have to not draw any graphs in it. And thus some people would say it's much easier because it doesn't seem that lengthy. And candidates have to follow somewhat an inaccurate method, take several readings, and then evaluate the results. Now here I have underlined the keywords. You have to follow an inaccurate method. That will be basically the method that the Cambridge people would have written in the question paper. You have to just follow the method, okay? So it'll be somewhat an inaccurate method, which you have to see, like what problems do you face in it while doing the experiment, right? While doing the experiment, you have to think about that what problems are you facing in it. Are you having problems in fixing any instruments? Carrying out how you could improve. What could be provided to you that could improve the experiment that you're doing, and it could be better. You could do better if those instruments are available, right? So that is what they are testing you on. You have to know that you have to keep your full concentration on the experiment you are doing, so that you can know what are you doing that right there. Okay, what are you doing right there? They'll mention it in the question paper, but you have to you have to keep your concentration full. It should be 100% while you're doing the experiment, so that you know that what problems are you facing, what improvements you can make in the experiment, what instruments that could be provided to you that could improve your experiment, right? And then it says take several readings. That means you have to take more readings. If you are supposedly given an oscillation experiment, okay, so you should take more readings, right? You should keep your oscillation like till 5. Let's say you take 5 oscillations, and then you have the time for those 5 oscillations, right? And then you take the time period per oscillation, right? So you should be giving the evidence that you have taken many readings. Okay, you could draw a table in the space provided. You could draw a table right there, so that the examiner knows that you are what you are doing is basically, it seems uh, more real, more accurate, right? And then this other things come that the other thing that comes is evaluate the results, right? And then they'll be giving you some formulas that you have to calculate using the readings you have taken. So as I said, they can ask you to first read the current from the ammeter, then you write the current, right? And then they ask you to evaluate the resistance, and they have given you the volts, and they ask you to evaluate the resistance. So these kind of evaluations you should know, right, how to make. You should be familiar with the formulas, at least. That I would really recommend, because it's not always necessary they give you a formula, but mostly they do. So don't worry. Candidates have to then identify the problems faced in the experiment and suggest improvements that can be made. So this is the last part of the question paper, and for like 4 marks will be awarded for the problems that you identify while the experiment. Okay, you have to write 4 problems that you identify, so 4 marks awarded for that. Then you are awarded 4 marks for suggesting the improvements, right? What you can do is, first you identify the problems, and then for those problems you tell you give suggestions, right? You give suggestions for those particular problems. You should suggest improvements for those particular problems, right? So that will be better, rather than thinking other improvements that you could do. But if you have any other improvements in your mind, then you can just write it there, right? So, like here I have given some important points. Most marks are for working, presentation, and conclusion, right? So that means you have to show the workings you're doing, right? If there is any formula given to you, you should first write you should first write the values of the formula. Just write the values of the formula in the equation given to you. Just put the values of the formula, just write that, and then write the answer, right? So that you should be showing your workings, so that at least if your answer is wrong, so they give you at least 1 mark for your working if it's worth 2 marks, right? If the question is worth 2 marks, because half mark is not awarded in Cambridge. Okay, and there is no negative marking as well. Then presentation. Talking about presentation, so the presentation is all about how the tables that are given to you, you will be asked to draw tables, right? As I like, when you're collecting data, you have to draw tables to store the data collected. So you'll be asked to draw tables, and the presentation of the tables should be very clear. It should be clear and very nicely presented. I'll talk about how what the examiner expects you to your table to be like a perfect table to be like. So I'll talk about that in the next video, in the next videos actually. And then conclusion, talking about the conclusion. So then we talk about the conclusion part. Then you should know how to evaluate conclusions, how to make out conclusions, how to make out the trends that are for the graph you have drawn, right? Is it a negative gradient? Is it a positive gradient, right? And then you should be knowing it if it's a, because when you draw the line of best fit, right, that you have to draw, that you'll be asked to draw, you'll know the trend, right? So by that you'll know the trend, and you should be knowing that is the change in y, the change in y-axis, is it increasing, the y is increasing as the x is decreasing, or is the y increasing as the x is increasing? You'll know the trend as you draw the line of best fit. But you should know how to draw the line of best fit, and how to how to evaluate the conclusion, how to evaluate the trend using that, right? Then talking about the don'ts, I already talked about that, and so let's just again recap the whole thing. Don't waste your time uh, in making readings very accurate, because there are only 2 marks of quality on whole paper. As I said, first just carry out the method they have given, and then do immediately move on to the calculations and other things they have asked you, the drawing tables and graphs and all. Do that first and draw your graphs with the pencil, okay, so that you can erase them, and it will be better with that. But after doing the method, okay, after carrying out the experiment, don't carry out again until you are completed with the whole paper and other experiments and the other questions. If you have time, then it's good. You can carry out your experiments again if you think that you you can make them more accurate. But it's after you're done with all the questions, you're done with the whole exam, and you are thorough with the paper, the answers you have given, all the calculations you have done properly, you have checked all your calculations. After that, you can carry out, if like they carry out the experiments again, if you think that you can make them more accurate by carrying them out again, right? Utilize the whole time you are given, okay? Don't be like don't be like that you just rush outside as soon as your paper is complete. Check it again and again as many times you want, and as much time as you have, right, you just utilize that in checking the paper. If you have a lot of time, like a half an hour, right, after checking the paper like 5 times at least, if you have a lot of time left, right, if you are done like with 5 checkings, and then move on to again carrying out the experiment. If you have the equipments and all, again carry out the experiments so that your results are more accurate. And make sure that your second reading is more accurate. But I think like the second guesses are always a little bit confused, where you make them while you're confused. So it's better if you have time for 3 experiments. I mean, the first one you have already done, and then the two other you do afterwards. If you have the time for two or more experiments, then it's better. Else, you can carry out just two experiments all together, but it's better if you carry out either one experiment or three. Else, just utilize the time for calculation, right? Now, the do. Rather attempt the other questions first after the reading is done, taken. It's better than leaving the whole paper almost, yeah, for just getting 2 marks, 2 mark questions perfectly, like correct. So that's what I was talking about. And I think every point would be clear by now. So we'll talk about both the papers individually in the other videos that I'll make after this. So please do watch them, and you can again watch this. Uh, you can again watch this if you feel like you have not understood any point. That's what I will suggest. But if you have understood everything, then it's okay. So I'll provide you with some more examples on this topic in my next video. And if you are new to this channel, please do subscribe this channel and also like this video and share it in your friends circle so they can also take advantage of this. And do click that bell icon so you never miss any updates of this channel and get notified every time.